Live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Cabinet on the 9th of June 2025. We will get cracking. Item 1, apologies. There are none. I can see everyone. So we'll move on to 2, declarations of interest. If there's any person who to declare any interest. Can't see any as ever. If you notice, you should have. As we go through the agenda items, please flag it there and then, and we'll deal with it. Agenda item 3, minutes from the April Cabinet meeting. Can I have a mover and a seconder for as a true record? Great. Okay, agenda item 4, revenue outturn report. The report explains the Council's outturn for its 24-25 revenue budget and the key issues arise from it. We're asking for Cabinet to note the outturn position, which is subject to audit, to approve the reserves transfers marked in section 6, and note the school's outturn detailed in section 4. The revenue outturn for 24-25 shows an underspend of £10.6 million after budget approved budget contributions to and from reserves, which represents a variance of only 2.7%, which is against the budget of £396 million for the Council. The final position represents an improvement of £6.1 million on the position report in Cabinet in November, mainly due to the late distribution of grant funding from Welsh Government, particularly in relation to central education and a general revenue grant. The outturn position is largely explained by bullet point 1, overspending in service budget areas primarily due to increased demand, rising costs and other service issues, which are detailed in the report. However, this is more than offset by an overachievement in interest receivable due to interest rates rising higher than anticipated in our investment balance, and increased savings on interest payable due to the delayed need to undertake borrowing caused by slippage of the capital programme. Council tax collection surplus due to increases in the council tax base, more homes essentially being built in Newport and coming alive online, and a general contingency budget which is always set out each year. The underspend can be due to the additional grants received, I just mentioned, from Welsh Government to our service and non-service areas detailed in the report. They're all very much last minute. The underspend will give us the opportunity to invest in one-off resources in our priorities and will be discussed shortly. I just want to emphasise these are one-off, it's not recurring spend, which is really, really important. So we can only spend it once, it doesn't come back to us next year. So even though that's a positive, which it very much is, as I mentioned, it's not recurring, and we still have recurring increasing demand in our services, particularly social services, education and housing, which will again be pressures this year. We approved additional investments to try and meet that expectation, but we continue to monitor that as we start to go through this year. There is also increasing demand in capital financing, which will significantly reduce the amount of underspend previously used in previous financial years to mitigate service overspends. Basically, we are investing more in our capital infrastructure programme, which obviously as the city grows, we need to spend more money, and we can't rely on our reserves to meet that expectation. So moving on to investment of that underspend back into our community, we wanted to budget and put things back into the issues that matter to people. With this in mind, we're going to invest an extra £2 million on our infrastructure assets, including, which I'm very pleased, more resurfacing of our roads across and repairing of our roads across the city. We drive the same roads, we see the same issues. So we're going to be investing far more into our roads over and above what's been given to us, which will bring our total investment infrastructure on our highways this year to £6.6 million, the most in over 10 years. We're also going to invest 500k to our economic regeneration team, to bolster that team, to meet the demands of regenerating our city. We're going big and bold this year, and we need the team to match that, including expertise we don't have in-house around the commercial space. So the expectation is to meet that expertise and demand and bolster that team. It will also include material for promotional activities promoting Newport to outside investors of around 70k, which will also include a promotional video about the city and where it's going, which is all positive news, and we want to build on that momentum. It also includes 600k to ongoing costs of relocating Millbrook Primary, which is a pressure as we try to make that process speedily go ahead. Lastly, we're also going to spend 500k in a scheme called No One Left Behind. This is being co-developed with us and the Rheoli'r Independent Group, and it will be financed to support what we hope to see as tackling issues that some communities in our city feel like they've been left behind. And some have been, not by the council, by the general economy. And we want to show them as a council we care and we will support them. And so with the Rheoli'r Independent Group, who have constructively worked with us as an opposition, which we vote broadly welcome, we show that our opposition members, if you're willing to be serious and talk, we're always willing to talk to you. And that's what serious opposition is about. So we're working with them. It'll be led with the leader of that group, the cabinet member for communities, Councillor Jason Hughes, who I welcome to his place in his first council cabinet meeting with us, and officers. And this is not a top-down approach. We are announcing the money as a cabinet, but it's those, the cabinet member, the leader of this Rheoli'r Independent Groups, and officers develop approaches that will help those communities grassroots up. So it's an innovative process, more details to follow, but it will be used to help those in areas of the city that think and believe and feel that they've been left behind, and we don't want them to feel that, and so that money is being rolled out to them. We'll be announcing further investments in our city, promoting it, unashamedly promoting it, investing in infrastructure because people want to see that, and to rightly so, in making their everyday, day-to-day living, and also investing in those communities that need investment. That is our commitment to the people of Newport, to promoting the city. Because when I say we want to make Newport the top city in Wales, we're serious. We're not shirking. And we will be positive about this city. And we've noticed that some people want to be negative and stick to the negative points about this city. Well, we'll leave them to be negative and stay in the mire. We're going for the sun, and we're unashamedly going for the sun. I ask the Cabinet, therefore, to consider the following proposals: note the outturn position, which is subject to audit and major ventures for the year; to agree and approve the use of the underspend and other reserve transfers, respectively, as set out in section 4 of the report, noting resulting levels of the Council's general and earmarked reserves; note the Council's outturn and the position on the individual and total school reserves. Any Cabinet colleagues wish to comment on that? Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Leader. First of all, I want to note as part of the underspend came about because of additional grants to our schools. All very, very much welcome as they were delivered from Welsh Government. Very grateful for that, particularly as most of those grants were invested on the capital infrastructure within our schools to improve those buildings and therefore improve opportunities in education. Very much welcome the 600k that's being put forward to support children as we transfer to that new build in Millbrook, because this supports ongoing education and access to education and ensures that those children currently in Millbrook get access to high levels of provision, which they so greatly need. I very much support the principle of a no one left behind fund. We've all got communities with their own wards where we know that there are families that struggle from day to day. They live in poverty, they struggle to pay their bills. It's a really, really, really hard and difficult life for them. If we can actually come up with a way to actually make life better and if give people aspiration opportunities, I think that's we can only welcome and celebrate and want to actually do that. Thank you.
Councillor House.
Thanks. Yeah, I also strongly endorse, the report, the allocation of the overspend, and also particularly, obviously, just wanted to highlight the extra million that's going into the road resurfacing programme. It's going to take it up to 6.6 million in total, and I just want to emphasise again what a fantastic resurfacing programme that's going to be. It's going to include lots of the roads that we hear a lot about, not least Malpas Road. So I just think, you know, it sends a good message to people that we are listening to people's priorities and they're going to be dealt with this year. So it's just a really good message.
Thank you, Councillor Howells. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Leader. First of all, the extra £500,000 is welcome within the regeneration team. Massive. And as you've mentioned, this year is key for you, absolutely key. And by adding to the budget and spent wisely in the correct areas, this really could make a difference for Newport and moving Newport forward. I'd also like to touch on sort of what you mentioned there about Newport and reaching for the sun and really pushing it. I think that's a really key message because sort of, you know, I've been around sadly long enough now. I'm getting to one of those people who has been around a while. And when a council hasn't got vision, it's moaned about, or allegedly. When it has got vision, it's moaned about. But the key to this is we're in a position now to have the vision, and it's absolutely key that Newport comes with us. You've got obviously people, the doubters, you'll always have those doubters, you're never going to change them. But I'm finding when I'm out in the city centre, when I'm talking to residents, it is changing out there. They are starting to see a change, and that's really, really important because you have to have hope as a city, and we've got hope. We've got ambition. And as the leader has said, we'll take that. We'll take that every time because we totally believe in it, and we've got the plans in place to make it happen.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Falcourt.
Hi there, thanks, Leader. Just to back up what Councillor Clark has said, really, and to say that I'm pleased to hear the allocation of funding to help us promote the city within the city to the people of Newport, and to share our vision and to show them that we mean business, actually. If we're out there doing that ourselves, it takes away the empty voids that other people fill with rubbish on social media. And I think that's really important.
Councillor Hughes.
I think the important thing for me as well is that, you know, we all want to see the city grow, develop and flourish. But I think it says a lot about the group, really, that part of that transformation of the city means that you don't leave anybody behind. You bring as many people on that journey as possible. That, you know, we all came into this to improve people's lives, and that's improving everybody's lives.
Well said, Councillor Hughes. Councillor Dan.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to touch on two things. One is the overspend in housing, of course, is highlighted in the corporate stuff. That's not something that's going to go away. We all know where the pressures are, housing and children's services. However, I'd like to touch on a few things. So the demographics of people in terms of the population has changed, particularly when it comes to dependent children and families. So that's dramatically gone down in the last financial year, and it's something we will be touching with the leader and myself later on this month with the local press team. But we will also see a reduction in the rough sleeping account in the city as well, which is a positive, of course. However, we're not going to take our eyes off the ball in terms of where the pressures are. We know where the pressures are when it comes to single households, particularly single males. And it is something that we will be rolling out and unpacking. We have no simple answer to this, and we will be consulting communities on the ground. And as the leader alluded to, it's a participatory approach, isn't it? That we have to look at ground up approach. And that's exactly why I'm supporting and endorsing the no one left behind allocation in terms of funds that you've alluded to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dan. Any other councillors? Great. Could I have a proposer and a seconder? Councillor Davis and Councillor Southgorton. And I think that's approved. Okay, agenda item 5, the Treasury Management Year Report. This is to inform Cabinet of our Treasury activities undertaken within the financial year 24-25. Bear with me, there's a lot of figures here, and I'm not so involved. The report outlines borrowing and investment activities during the year, provides an update compliance against the agreed prudential indicators, and provides an outlook for the forthcoming year and the medium term. The report's been considered by Governance Audit Committee, who provided no comments for Cabinet consideration. The report will ultimately go to full council for approval and be debated if so wish. In the 24-25 financial year, the council undertook some early borrowing in the form of 3 temporary loans totaling 15 million and 1 long-term loan totaling 10 million to cover our refinancing requirement, as well as a further 10 million to cover our future capital programme. We also took out a 25 million of short-term borrowing to cover cash flow at the very end of the financial year. As a result, total borrowing increased by 31.3 million from March 24 from 137.1 million to 168.4 million. 25 million borrowing that was undertaken was to cover 2 large loans that were due to mature at the end of March 25. There was no significant change in the council's investments throughout the financial year, although there were significant movements throughout the year due to taking out long-term borrowing early, which were able to reinvest it back in the short term. Of the year-end balances, 10 million continues to be held on long-term covered bonds to ensure the council retains its professional client status, meaning it can access better borrowing rates. The report also details our PIs and performance against them and any reasons for non-compliance. The first one being the potential of the council's capital financing budget of its net budget. This has arisen due to a technical accounting aspect associated with this indicator and has no financial cost or impact to the council. The interest rate risk indicator, this indicator measures the potential impact of changes in interest rates on the revenue budget if maturing loans require refinancing. And it is an estimation, not a limit, but of what resources would be required to cover a change in interest rates. Therefore, this should be viewed as a soft target rather than a hard limit. It also is largely beyond the council's control. At the end of the financial year, the authority's borrowing was 168.4 million, which is above the council's operation boundary. However, since the operation boundary is a management tool for in-year monitoring, it's not significant if the operational boundary is breached on occasion due to variations in cash flow and is not counted as a compliance failure. Outlooks for the next few years, underlying need to borrow further as the capital programme is delivered and reserves are used. There is a risk the remaining loans could need redeeming, but the hope is that equivalent, if not better, interest rates could be accessed for any replacement loans required. Officers will monitor interest rates closely to ensure the best rates are accessed for any new borrowing and liaison with external treasurers advisors. In human language, we're borrowing more for our schools program and to deliver better schools for our future generations as our population grows, if people want that more in layman's terms. I asked the council and the cabinet note to report on treasury management activities in the 24-25 financial year, provide any comments to council. Any comments from cabinet members on all those figures? No? Can I ask for approval in a second, please? Councillor Davis, Councillor Spencer. And that is moved, unless there's any agreement. But Mike, I always look to because Mike always looks to me for. Agenda item 6 then. I introduce Councillor James Clark.
Thank you, Leader. The third report being presented at today's Cabinet is a new draft socially responsible procurement strategy 25 to 30. The report is to seek Cabinet approval to adopt the new socially responsible procurement strategy. The Council spends in the region of £260 million on goods and services in its revenue budget, and it also has a substantial capital programme expenditure. It is therefore essential that this money is spent not only in compliance with legislation, but also in a way that supports the Council's corporate plan and helps deliver our ambitions of maximising social value to our communities, reducing our carbon footprint, advancing fair work equality, while safeguarding those most vulnerable. The previous procurement strategy is now expired, so a new procurement strategy is required to set out the priorities for procurement activity across the council and detail how our new strategy interacts with other council aims and objectives and wider Wales and UK procurement policy and regulation. The new draft strategy has been built around a core set of principles that will ensure that procurement activities across the council is delivered in ways that not only ensure legal compliance, but flexes our spend to deliver positive outcomes for our residents and our communities. Just sort of summing up, I'd like to thank the team involved in this, putting the document together, including Richard Leek, who I've had numerous meetings about. And before anyone else mentions it, the only issue I do have in the document is the picture on page 59, which I have tried to remove, but I lost that battle.
But it's accurate.
So as I said, I'd like the Cabinet to approve and adopt the new socially responsible procurement strategy 2025 to 2030 and for it to be published. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Any questions or comments?
To comment.
Councillor Davis.
Thank you. I very much welcome an integral component of group policy is that it's being underpinned by our climate change action plan as well as social values, or our TOMS, which is a policy we adopted some time ago. It's clear that the focus is on involving local people and organisations and building on a strategy that commits to encouraging Newport businesses to take advantage of local contract opportunities. And I think that's vital, and it really needs to be noted. This is about a procurement policy that works for council as well as our local businesses and ensures that local businesses get the best opportunities possible. I think it's a real positive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. And that was going to be my point. I thank the team. And this is about using our power as an institution to support local businesses and local people, as well as being socially driven and understanding what is important to many residents across our community. So using our powers to help them is the best way of spending money. And I thank all the officers who have been involved in that process. Can we have an approver, proposer and seconder? Councillor Dan and Councillor Rose. Sorry, I still look to you for reassurance. It's like a habit now. Moving on to agenda item 7, Cabinet Report of Corporate Risk Register for Quarter 4. That's January 1st of January to March 2025. The report provides an overview of the corporate risks which may prevent the achievement of strategic priorities and deliver services to Newport's communities. At the end of Quarter 4, there were 42 risk recorders across the organisation. 15 out of the 42 were recorded in the corporate risk register, 7 severe, 8 major. There were no changes to risk scores in Quarter 4. In 25-26, the reporting frequency was reduced from quarterly updates to 6 monthly updates at the mid and end year points. A summary of the Council's corporate risk register position will be reported and by exception to Cabinet. The Governance and Audit Committee will continue to review quarterly updates to support the Council's corporate governance and assurance arrangements. All the risks and all the rationale for the risks and their scoring is within the report if people wish to peruse at their leisure. I ask the Cabinet to consider and note the contents of the corporate risk register and to continue monitoring progress of actions taken to address these risks identified in the report. Colleagues, any comments colleagues wish to say? Councillor Forson.
I wanted to comment on risk 14, which is the net carbon zero, and thank Councillor Davis for her comments on the previous item, which I think she covered what I wanted to say. But this agenda is so much more than the amount of carbon produced. This is about creating a cleaner and greener environment, an environment where the air quality is good for everybody in the city. And it's also about energy security, where we produce our own energy rather than buying it in from other countries, which gives them leverage over us, and also good for the balance of payments. But it's also good on a very local basis, because one of the schools where I'm a governor, the energy costs this year are going to be £10,000 less because they've got solar panels and air source heat pumps. And that is money that can go into education resources, not going to some big energy company. So this is good on a large scale, but also it's good for our local schools, and it's good on a local scale as well.
Thank you, Councillor Boyd. Actually, it's a really good point to highlight. The more capex investment in this infrastructure saves revenue costs, which is the recurring costs, which can bump straight back into frontline services, which is often missed. So it's a good point to raise. Councillor Howell.
Yeah, not to sort of sound like a stuck record, but 2 of the severe risks identified are
Okay.
are the highways asset and property asset. As I've just said, we've got this big resurfacing programme, which I think is going to start to tackle some of the issues around the highways risk register element. And I'm sure everyone's noticed that we started working on the civic centre, not least with the clock tower cleaning. That's just the first part of a wider programme of works, which is just one of the things we're going to do to be addressing property estate risk element as well. So we are on it with those aspects.
Thank you, Councillor Howard. It's worth, Councillor Spencer just takes a moment. It's worth highlighting again that we're spending the underspend on our infrastructure, on the stuff that's out there, and on what people will notice, and it's frontline stuff, and we're proud to do so. We wait for Councillor Spencer. Can I ask any other comments? Councillor Mason.
Thanks, Leader. I wasn't going to comment, I wasn't going to comment, but as I have got a number of interests in this area, what I want to say is that there seems to be a shift now through the regional partnership, one of the places where we're looking at preventative. The only way that we're going to solve the pressure on social services, both adults and children, is to start looking at the front end and how we stop people from going there in the first place. And having been on the regional partnership this week, there seems to be now a shift from the health side of things as well, is to start looking at prevention, and we'll continue to lobby Welsh Government for continued prevention finances within prevention, which obviously isn't the statutory area, but I think there's a lot of good work going on in social services, both adults and children, where we're looking at things, we can't keep cutting, but we need to start being savvy with what we're doing, innovative ideas, how we, as I said, the prevention agenda is a big one. So that's going on. So hopefully it doesn't happen straight away. That's the only thing. The prevent, it'll filter through in maybe 1 or 2 years, but the work is ongoing. So there's a lot of good work in the arena. Hopefully we see this shortly along.
It's a fantastic point to highlight, Councillor Lacey. In politics, it's often the in thing to talk about short-termism. But in the social service space, we know pressures in children's services and our services aside, particularly children's. And the way we know will have a meaningful impact, improving their lives, as well as reducing our pressures financially, as well as on our staff, is by preventing them to that crisis point. And there's no quick fix. There's no quick solution. I know it's the vogue thing with other parties saying they can quick fix anything. There's no easier way around it. You have to do long-term thinking through about how you change systems, and the preventative space is where you have to be. And if anyone wants to fall for the short-termism, you crack on, but we're going to solve the real problem on a long-term basis. So it's a great point to highlight, Councillor Lacey. Any other points? No, can I bring people in a second there? Councillor 14, Councillor Lacey. Sorry, just have it now. I don't look at you. I turn it to the okay, moving on to agenda item 8, SPF, Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Leader. Shared Prosperity Funding, or as commonly known as the UK SPF, has been in place since 2022 and sought to replace previous regional funding received from the European Union. Funding has been focused on 3 core priorities: community and place, supporting local business, and people and skills. The first 3-year funding programme ended on the 31st of March this year, and as promised, we are providing an update on what we achieved with this funding over the last 3 years. Newport received a core allocation of 27 million with an additional 5.4 to invest in the adult numeracy programme called Multiply. This was part of a wider allocation to the Cardiff Capital Region, which received over 230 million for core programmes and just over 48 million for Multiply. The primary goal of SPF was to build pride in place and increase life chances across the UK by boosting productivity, paid jobs and living standards, by growing the private sector, especially in those places that were lagging, spreading opportunities and improving public services, especially in those places which were the weakest, restoring a sense of community, local pride and belonging, especially in those places which have been lost, and empowering local leaders and communities. The report before you details how Newport spent over 32.1 million on core delivery and Multiply programmes, which covered approximately 90 projects and saw funding distributed to around 100 community groups and voluntary organisations. It is also important to note that Newport received an additional award of just over 1.1 million to spend on core projects as a result of us being able to evidence our ability to spend and deliver on projects. It's fair to say that spending the multiplier allocation has been a challenge, with over 5 million ring fence for adult numeracy, just in the Newport areas. And areas across the UK have struggled as well to spend the full amount of funding. The Cardiff Capital Region received over 32 million for the multiply programme, and it's good to see that collectively across the region we've managed to spend approximately 27 million of the funding. But turning back to the core funding spend, the report provides details on the types of projects supported, which include working on the Monmouthshire and Brecon Canal, delivery of the popular splash park at Treasury Park, provision of warm spaces during the winter period, providing 700 sessions to support our most vulnerable residents, helping our third sector partners that deliver homelessness support to over 300 people in need, supporting the delivery of Wales's first esports facility, helping over 300 young people develop their digital skills and accessing new career options, bringing new events to the city centre, including the Lunar New Year celebration, Festival of Words and the Music Trail, which all showcase the incredible culture and heritage of the city. Importantly, we were able to use the funding to help people back into work. 116 people were supported back into employment. 317 went to the Access Formal Education training. 81 people were provided with the opportunity to take part in work experience placement, and over 1,500 residents were supported with basic skills. The report also includes some case studies which illustrate the impact that the SPF funding has had on various organisations, including our own Newport Youth Academy. The extra funding has meant that we could do more and help more young people who are at risk of becoming NEET, which is not in education, employment or training. Over 784,000 was distributed to local voluntary community and social groups, helping them to provide local communities with access to events, festivals and programmes, which are aimed to support community cohesion, promote civic pride and generally improve the health of our residents. The case studies included in the report from groups such as Newport Aces Basketball, which I know a resident in my ward in Malpas, her son is involved with that, and the Beechwood Park Community Group, show the impact that relatively small amounts of funding can have, particularly in respect of engaging more women and girls in sport and reducing ASB. Importantly, the report provides details of the outcomes and outputs that have been achieved as a result of this funding being awarded to the council. It demonstrates that when we are given the money to spend on local priorities, firstly, we can spend it, and secondly, that we can put in place the relevant projects and programmes which make a positive difference to our residents and local communities. And before I go to recommendations, sort of this SPF is something I inherited a year or so ago, so I lost track of time. But the real backbone of this is really the officers. Tracy and Alistair, who lead on this, I'm hugely demanding on them. I'm sure Tracy's online now. I'm hugely demanding on them. Emails at certain times of the day and weekends, etc., etc. But what they've done and the team behind it is incredible, because there is a lot of pressure. It's a great project. It's a fantastic, but everyone wants to get involved. And the time and demand and going through the applications and me pushing them all the time. And sometimes they're pushing back, rightly so in some cases. It's just a credit to all involved. So I just wanted to make that public. So in conclusion, I asked the Cabinet, note the update provided in the report and the outcomes and outputs achieved over the last 3 years, all of which have been very positive for the city and our residents. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Any comments from Councillor Clark? Councillor Starr. Hello.
Goodness me. Thank you, Rita. Just to declare a very tiny interest, I am a volunteer at a project which did benefit from SPF funding last year, but it's, yeah. I agree with everything James said there. I mean, I've seen, when we talk about nobody left behind, I've seen some young people come in through getting performance opportunities that they wouldn't have been able to have if it wasn't for SPF and watching these young people perform at the Music Trail, the Big Splash, and those types of events, because the SPF is there to help fund them. It's just incredible. And we must also mention the level of footfall
that putting on these events using SPF funding has enabled us to attract. We're talking tens of thousands of people. You know, the music trail alone boosted footfall that weekend by 13,000 people. That's before you look at Christmas lights, the urban beach, the Lunar New Year, and everything else. So SPF really is vital. And I agree. Thanks to the officers. I know, you know, they're quite public facing with this. You know, they deal with all the community groups, and it's a lot of pressure, but they did a cracking job, and they continue to.
Thank you, Councillor Starcourt. Councillor Force.
I wanted to comment on the splash pad, which I think we all had a really lovely day down there, and the ongoing, you know, facility that we've got is really a great place. But I also wanted to comment on the Monbrec Canal. A resident wrote to me the other day and said that how important the canal is to people for travel and for leisure and for wildlife facilities. And they suggested I didn't stand up for the canal enough. I thought, basically, I banged on about it at every opportunity. But just in case I just mentioned the lock gates that were put in there. And the new lock gates that we used are thought to last over 100 years, possibly more. But I won't be obviously around to hold anybody account for that. But so it's really a long-term, you know, investment. Whereas before we put in a set of lock gates and they've lasted about 20 years, 25 years. These new style lock gates will last over 100 years. So it really is appreciated. And thank you very much. Can we have some more, please?
Thank you, Councillor Force. Councillor Davis.
Yes, I think I probably need to declare an expression of interest in that. I'm a trustee of Make Unlimited, and in that I'm happy to say I have no part of the application for funding, but I've certainly witnessed the funding that's been awarded to Make Unlimited, specifically the focus on spending on mainly to be generated as a central hub. We saw last summer and still ongoing over recent weeks has been the beautiful murals that we see across Chepstow Road that have really uplifted that place and given people who live in that area a sense of well-being. And very specifically at this current point in time, we're seeing Wolf Road, where a garden is currently being planted, and that garden was actually shown at the RHS event in Malvern, and we won a silver award, a national recognised silver award for that garden, which was designed with support from it's actually going to be embedded in Wolf Road now, and it's going to be for our residents. That's formally opening a week next Friday, but it's there. SPF funding was very much used to promote that. Additionally, money in my area where it was Beechwood Park has been mentioned as examples, and also Newydd Festival, and all those opportunities for investment are actually making a difference in people's lives who live in those areas, all free to access, and promoting a sense of well-being. It's brilliant.
Councillor Spencer, I should also welcome you to Cabinet as well, to your first Cabinet. I'm going to talk briefly about you and Councillor Hughes at the end. But
I just want to briefly touch on the SPF, about the money which is being given to sports. And in the report, it goes into St Michael's boxing club, Newport basketball. Let's not forget, it's not just football and rugby sports in Newport. We need to invest a lot more into these clubs and community groups and keep pushing forward, which I look forward to doing in my new position.
Thank you, Councillor Spencer. Councillor Lees.
Follow on from Councillor Spencer, actually, with regard to the sport and the money going into prevention of NEAT and into the sports with reducing the ASB. And this is a prime example of that prevention, which I just mentioned within the rest. Because if we get those children or young adults at that point, stop them becoming involved in crime or other areas, then this, so this SPF is actually changing lives. It's actually helping us at the back end when it comes through to the youth justice system, that we don't see these people because of the money that's put in. But also just wanted to quickly mention on the Treasury Park splash pad as well, which I know Councillor Fordy's mentioned, but also just to say that the teams, the parks team specifically, have really helped when I've asked for the relaxed sessions, not just in the morning but in the afternoon as well, and the difference that's making to some of our most vulnerable children and residents. And it really just, the work that these guys have put in. good point. It is life changing for some of them because previously they didn't have that facility and they couldn't get to that facility. So now to take your, your child to a session on an afternoon or a morning, right on your doorstep, a lot from, my class and in your ward that can walk there, thanks to SPF, is a game changer for some of these kids. So it's brilliant.
Thank you, Councillor Lacey. Any other colleagues or comments? I just want to say, notwithstanding everything else that's been said about the amazing impact this has had on our communities, and long may it continue, can I just thank Councillor Clark for his dogged diligence in this area. It seems easy on the face of it, but actually it's very, very hard. It's very, very technical. There are a lot of people to put pressure on because they, support for their communities, for their groups. And Councillor Clark takes that with grace and deals with it in such a professional manner, both with them and officers, in administering the money to maximum effect in the Newport area and to those communities. And so it's a big thanks to the office, but actually it's a big thanks to Councillor Clark for the hard work from me and probably from the entire cabinet. We have an approval and a seconder in this report. Councillor Hughes and Councillor Gordon. It is a tick. I need to cure myself. Agenda item 9. Introducing Councillor Amistad.
Hello. Thank you, Leader. In July 2024, Cabinet colleagues will remember we agreed to accept the invitation to host the Urdd in 2027 and provide a financial contribution towards the delivery of the event. As a reminder, this event has a huge economic value to the areas that host it, expected to be around £7 million, and it's an excellent opportunity for the whole city. And I'm determined that when it gets here in 27, the whole city feels the benefit of it. More than 15,000 young people will participate, and this event will attract more than 60,000 visitors to Newport over 7 days. It's a wonderful way to showcase our city. Many of you will have noticed that we recently announced the location for the Urdd in 2027, the Adroddiad House, which is wonderful. And I'd like to thank our colleagues at the National Trust for their cooperation and support to date. So today, we've already agreed a financial contribution towards the Urdd. I'd like to ask Cabinet to agree to the request to ring-fence a further 100,000 from the Events Reserve Fund to contribute towards delivery costs of the event, with authority to spend this fund delegated to the Head of Region and Economic Development in consultation with the appropriate cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you. Any colleagues for a comment? Councillor Howes.
Yeah, it's a bit parochial, but I had to comment. This is in my ward, so we're absolutely thrilled. It's going to be actually the house, and I just want to echo thank you to the National Trust staff. So we're going to work with you today, and then obviously we have to work very closely with them going forward to make this a huge success, which I'm sure it will be. And having seen the level of income it generates for the city to host the event, I'd be very supportive of the extra funding, I just think it's going to be a really exciting event to promote Welsh language, which I think is important, particularly in Newport. Being that we are perhaps a bit more an Anglified bit of Wales, and I think, so there's some work to be done, and this is going to be a fantastic first step to get a Welsh language platform in the region.
Thank you, Councillor Howes. Well said. Councillor Hughes.
I'm sure that following on from my colleague, I think not many people in Newport will understand the significance really yet of what this actually means. I think for people that have grown up and lived here all their lives as young people, I was growing up with both sides of my neighbours having won the national Eisteddfod chair, Rheoli'r and William Morris, and I think it's more than the language to the point. It's a huge opportunity for young people, and that's young people who are familiar with Welsh and not familiar with Welsh. I think for me personally, I was on the stage once in the Eisteddfod and probably left to hear my singing. That was the end of it. But it was an opportunity to go on stage in front of thousands of people, and I think 8 years ago, it's life changing, and I still remember it. And today it was quite powerful in that sense. I think it's about opportunity. It's about opportunity for the city. It's a major coup for myself personally, because I think my hometown Carnarvon hasn't held it in my lifetime. So we're going to get it before then. So it's quite a big deal. And I think people don't quite get how big a deal it is. You know, we're talking about 15,000 young people competing, much more than that to get through. That's up to date, and 20 or 1,000. The Urdd touches children. You know, 50,000 still go to Llangrannog every year. It's the first time away from home for a lot of Welsh children, away from their parents. Which has good and bad side maybe, but really spectacular. I think, you know, I really don't think yet people understand how big a deal this is. And for me personally, when I came to Newport 30 years ago, as my colleague said, it was untouched by the Welsh language to a point. And now we have Welsh schools in the city. We have the end of the world. We have the Marry the Way. You know, we have lots and lots of really good news stories to tell to be Eisteddfod. So it's been a long time for me to sort of be in a position to sort of say, Croeso i'r Gobaith Cymru, Dinas Newydd. I think, you know, and it's overdue. It was 1929 the year Eisteddfod was formed, and 98 years to the year that we'll have it in Newport. So it's overdue, but really, really welcome.
Thank you. As Cabinet Education, I really, really welcome this. You know, curriculum for Wales, very much a focus on curriculum for Wales is connecting and a sense of belonging and who we are and a sense of purpose. And the Urdd actually being in Newport will enable many of our children within Newport to actually understand what that actually means. This is a huge opportunity, not just for our Welsh medium schools, but also for mainstream education schools to actually understand what it means to be Welsh, what it means to actually understand and be part of that language and really get the foil of being Welsh. And this is something to be celebrated. This is something that I really, really look forward to seeing our schools have an opportunity to visit when it actually goes ahead and being part of those 18,000 children. It's a massive opportunity. I'm sure none of those children forget this going forward. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Leader. How positive is this? You know, you know, for me, I look at a 2-page report here in front of me, what I'm reading, but it's a lot more than that. Let's not kid ourselves that, you know, I'm sure many places in cities and towns in Wales would want this. We've got it, and that says so much about Newport. And for me, you know, as Councillor Chwarter mentioned, 15,000 young people come into Newport. 60,000 visitors. Isn't that exactly what we're trying to do for Newport? Isn't that exactly a big part of the jigsaw of moving Newport forward? 7.4 million potential spend in Newport and surrounding areas. So I think this is a massive boost. I think this is so positive. And as I said, I'm imagine again. I go back to this. You'll have your social media keyboard warriors, but look at the facts for this. Look what it will do. So absolutely fully behind it and fully supported. And massive well done.
Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Clark. I was lucky enough to go to Market Park with the Chief Executive to announce the Strategaeth house. They were holding the. It was fantastic. It was beautiful to see. And in my eyeliner, as I was listening to all the cabinet speak, I could see the Welsh flag fluttering in front of this council. And what a better way to say we're a proud Welsh city. We're proud of our heritage and we're proud of our culture. Can't wait for the event to come to me. Can I approve of a second for this agenda? Councillor Clark, Councillor Diggs. Then do it then. See, I didn't look at you. Okay, moving on to agenda item 10. Report for Adult Social Services Council.
So we're delighted to share with you the published inspection report from Newport City Council's Adult Services. The report summarises findings from the inspection held between the 3rd of February and the 7th of February 2025. The inspection was conducted to review the local authority's performance in exercising its social services duties and functions in line with legislation on behalf of Welsh ministers. It focused on the effectiveness of local authority services and arrangements to help protect people. The report is extremely positive and we'd like to thank our staff and managers for the work that they do every day to deliver support to people. We'd also like to thank the Care Inspectorate Wales for their approach in the inspection and the work they've taken. There's some highlights of the inspection include the practitioners in Newport Adult Services demonstrate dedication and strong commitment to providing high quality care and support. The commitment is reflected in the positive culture within the workforce. 85% of staff who responded to CIW's survey recommended working for Newport. Staff highlight supportive leadership, inclusive nature, and the emphasis on employee well-being as key factors contributing to a positive work experience. Leaders navigate a complex landscape marked by high demand, increasing complexity of need, and significant budgetary pressures. They understand the diverse characteristics and unique challenges of their community, enabling them to implement strategic plans that align resources with identified needs and risks. There are a lot of robust safeguarding practices, a strong commitment to prevention and early help, and effective multi-agency collaboration. And in summary, adult services demonstrates a dedication in providing high quality care and support, with strong partnerships enhancing the delivery of integrated care and support. As always, there are also areas for improvement, and these included reducing waiting times for assessment and reviews of care and support plans, enhancing the quality and effectiveness of formal supervision, and ensuring consistent quality assurance and improving the recording of advocacy of others. So for next steps, adult services will now reflect on areas identified for improvement and take appropriate action to address and improve these areas. These will be monitored through Care Inspectorate Willard's ongoing performance review activity with the local authority. Finally, as Cabinet Member for Social Services, I just wanted to take again this opportunity to offer my sincere thanks to everyone working across adult services, our social workers, occupational therapists, support workers, administrative staff, managers, and many others that play an essential role in supporting people every day in often very challenging circumstances. Their compassion, professionalism, and dedication have not only been recognised in this inspection, but are felt every day by the individuals and families they support, and I'm immensely proud of the work that they do, the positive culture that they continue to build within our service. I would also like to extend my thanks again to the Care Inspectorate Willard for their constructive, respectful, and thorough approach to this inspection. Their work provides valuable insight and helps ensure we remain focused and continue for improvement.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Davis.
Thank you. I think there's room for the positivity really shone through. But what really shone through very specifically, something we've been talking about already this afternoon, is that it was noted in the report that this council was seen to embrace a culture of prevention and inclusion. And what was particularly noted was the positive approach that's been led by a head of prevention and inclusion, and that's highly commended. It's not all authorities have got someone who has taken up that role, and I think that for us actually as a local authority reflects how important we see the imperative work that we actually do and focus on prevention. And one key example of this, I think, was noted within the report is the community connector services. And I think we've all seen that working across our city. And community connectors work with those individuals who are lonely. They support individuals who need financial advice. They're there at every event that I ever go to, offering support, whether it's one-to-one or groups or group work. I've seen them work incredibly hard. And those individuals who are part of that team, the credit, any community credited.
It's a fantastic point to highlight, and it is a fantastic report, Councillor Lacey, and I speak to the whole cabinet, I'm sure, and all councillors, I would imagine, thanks to the team. It's a hard job. Let's not shirk that reality. It's a hard job dealing with the complexities they do deal with. They receive such a glowing report, which won't get any media attention. It won't get any social media commentary, but it's badly needed by people who really need our services, and our services have met that challenge. Are there areas to improve? Of course. There always is. I would be shocked if there isn't. But to have such a glowing report, such an area of complexity, that's up to you as a cabinet member and to the whole entire team. Any other comments? Okay, can I have an approval and a seconder, please? Councillor Clark, Councillor Spencer. And I assume that's approved. Moving on to agenda item 11, Sustainable Communities for Learning Rolling Programme, Councillor Davis.
Welsh Government's Sustainable Communities for Learning programme is delivered in partnership with local authorities and is a long-term capital investment to improve education facilities. The second wave of the programme, known as Band B, has now come to conclusion, and a more flexible 9-year rolling programme has commenced. In March 2024, Cabinet agreed the investment objectives upon which Newport's rolling programme is based. resultant strategic outline programme was approved by Welsh Government in August 2024. The programme provides match-funded investment at a Welsh Government intervention rate of 65%. Currently, the overall programme is estimated at £110 million, requiring a 35% council contribution in the region of £38.5 million over the next 9 years. Earlier this year, Cabinet approved the rolling programme as an addition to the overall capital programme. The council has also approved its overall capital and treasury strategy for 25-26, and this includes the next 5-year capital programme. The strategic objectives of the rolling programme are aligned to the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, Cymraeg 2050, the Council's Corporate Plan and the Gwent Public Services Wellbeing Plan. The programme also aims to contribute to the carbon reduction strategy by delivering carbon neutral buildings. Priority projects for this first phase of the 9-year programme will focus on redevelopment of Rheoli'r comprehensive school site, a replacement primary school at the Bettis community, and the new developer-led primary school at Great Milton Park. I ask that this Cabinet considers delegating authority to the Head of Education to take steps as necessary to deliver the currently approved programme. This authority will include approval of any expenditure and the details of any scheme, providing it is consistent with provisions of the approved programme, any relevant council plans, policies and procedures, and all relevant legislative requirements. I'd ask this Cabinet considers prescribing that there should be regular reports on progress and exceptions made to the Cabinet Member for Education and Early Years. Cabinet should also receive reports on progress at the end of each phase of the agreed programme, and in any instances where variances to the agreed programme require consideration and approval.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Any comments from Councillor Davis? No, I would just like to highlight what I talked about on our capital management. This is where the vast majority of our money is going, on our schools. Now, it's worth bearing that in mind. Can I have approval in a second? Councillor Clark and Councillor Lacey, thank you. I think it's item 12, which is the work programme. Can I have move to acceptance, please? Councillor Lacey, Councillor Forsey, thank you. I'd just like to end on welcoming Councillor Spencer, Councillor Hughes formally. Councillor Spencer is focusing on sport in our city. One thing that struck me over the last year is the ingrained fabric of the sport ethos in our city, particularly our grassroots sporting. Our clubs are booming in many different sports, and the council needs to meet that expectation. So I've created a cabinet post to dedicate themselves so this council can support our grassroots clubs, those children, those families who engage in those activities. And I want to say, with our population growth, the future stars of Welsh national sport are going to come from this city, and we as a council recognise that. And to welcome Councillor Hughes, one of the things about this city, despite its immense growth and continued accelerating growth, is that some communities don't feel that growth. And Councillor Hughes, no pressure, is that post is created to support our activities to make sure all our communities feel the rewards of growth, and hence backing him, that department, with some money on a cross-party basis to support that is important to us. So welcome to the Cabinet. I look forward to working with both of you for the coming year. That's it. I am the Cabinet. Thank you all for your attendance. Have a great evening.